Hey everybody, Steve here. So, as you've read on the thumbnail, this is going to be my review of Isom and why I don't think this book works. Now, let me say this up front. This is my personal opinion. My personal opinion alone. If you guys like Isom, then I encourage you to continue to support the comic book. You should continue to support the Rippaverse. You should continue to support Eric July. This is by no way am I trying to tell you what you should or should not read. This is simply my own observation as a writer. I've written 2 novels, so I know a little bit about writing. I know a lot about comic books. Came up on reading comic books from the time I was, old enough to read. I read comic books. So I know comic books. I know writing. I know what's involved in these things. But this is my observations. Please, if you like these things, continue to support them. You've earned that money. You went out. You worked hard for this money. You should spend it any way you want. And I encourage you to continue to spend it any way you want. So, getting that out of the way, this is why I think Isom didn't work. 1, the plot, or the lack of plot. There was no plot in this book at all. All right, let me amend that. You could see that he wanted to have a plot. He has some kind of idea as to where he wanted to go with this, but it failed to show up. Now, I guess in the simplest terms, you could say what happened in issue 1 was a plot, but it wasn't. It was more of a plot point. This book is 96 pages long. This whole thing could have been wrapped up in 10 pages. It went on a lot longer than it needed to. It failed on many levels when it comes to plot. If this was a monthly title, if he was doing a 22, 24 page floppy every month, then introducing the Isom character and having him in some kind of, just vaguely reference certain things in issue 1, and then next month you could drop some more hints into issue 2. And as the book goes on month to month, you have the reader. You're bringing them along, you're stringing them along, you're leaving breadcrumbs. So then when you get to something like issue 12, the 1-year mark, you can have the big Isom revealed, the origin revealed story, and you can just have all kinds of stuff explode. But to have one 96-page book go through nothing but a guy getting a call from his sister, she's asking him to go look for a missing girl. He does it, even though he doesn't want to. Goes out, and in the course of trying to find her, goes to a place where he thinks she might be. Gets into a confrontation with the guy who owns this place. Gets disrespected at the club. He gets tossed out, about a mile out. And then he spends the rest of the book figuring out a way to, sulk and get mad, and how he's going to go back to the club and beat everybody up because he was disrespected at the club. If that's the plot, that's the weakest plot you could possibly have. In my book, Deadlock, I have an A plot and a B plot. The A plot is the main character, the main protagonist, Eddie, and the antagonist, the bad guy, Zealot, They receive their powers. They are told that they're fighting an intergalactic war, and these two need to fight, and whoever wins is going to settle this intergalactic war. Well, throughout the book, our hero Eddie wrestles with getting powers, dealing with what he has to do. He's got family issues. He's got this shadowy government agency coming around after him. On the other side, you have the villain. You goes through what the villain's going through, how he has to find Eddie. He's never told how to find him, so he just goes out and he tries to cause as much chaos as possible. And then these two finally collide. And the main plot of the book is resolved at the end. Now, there's a B plot running through that things happen. And at the end of the book, after the A plot happens, what happens in the B plot kind of explodes. And that becomes the big A plot of the next book, Fallout, with another B plot going this way through. If this would have had something like that, if he would have got the phone call, hey, there's a girl missing, and he was a former hero, he jumps up and says, you know what, I'm retired, but I know this girl, I'm going to go help her. And he spends the book trying to find her. The ups and downs and the ins and outs of trying to get back into this heroic persona, trying to find this girl. And then at the end of the book, he finds her, whether she's alive, dead, whether she wants anything to do with him or not. The A plot gets resolved. There is a complete story told in this one book. And he could have had a B plot running through it. And that B plot could have sparked something that makes its way into the next book, that, a cliffhanger. So people go, ooh, yeah, wow, didn't see that coming. Now I'm hooked. Now I want to get into issue 2, and I want to read what happens. There's none of that. As a matter of fact, there's nothing in this book that made me want to read the second issue. As a hero, he doesn't present himself as a hero at all. He's a self-centered narcissist. He didn't want to leave the farm. He didn't want to have to go do these things. He has no redeemable qualities whatsoever. He's basically a thug. He goes out and he starts fights in this club. He completely forgets the fact that he's trying to find somebody. As a matter of fact, the girl he's supposed to find, he accidentally runs into when he's going to the club to get his revenge. Like, oh, hey, look, you're here. And then she says, I want nothing to do with you. And then as she walks away, he turns around and he continues his revenge path. It's not even a good anti-hero book. I mean, if he would have presented himself as an anti-hero. Even the Punisher. The Punisher's idea of justice might have been perverted. But in his head, he thought he was doing good. So he did his thing. This guy, Isom, no idea what he's thinking. He's just doing things. His superpowers. We see through context clues that he has super strength and he has some super durability. That's pretty much it. I guess you can add he has some agility. He's bounced. He jumps off a wall and punches a guy. So he has some agility too. But for the most part, no powers are being really presented. If these are his powers, so be it. I've seen interviews with Eric July, and people have asked him what their powers are, and he refuses to say. He'll answer their question with another question. They'll say, hey, what are your powers? And he'll go, well, what did you read? What did you see? What do you think they are? Tell us. I can tell you, again, Deadlock. The hero, Eddie. He's got super strength. Flight. He shoots these blue energy bolts out of his hands. He's very durable. Super durable. He can run faster than most people just because he's got super strength, so he can, generate a lot of leg strength to run. He's basically a powered down Superman. He's strong and big, but he's not, overpowered. He can still get beat up by other bigger, stronger superheroes or superpowered people. For whatever reason, Eric July likes to keep everything private and hidden away. I will gladly speak about what my heroes do, what my villains do, as long as I'm not giving, I'm not giving all the plot points away. I'm not giving away the end of the book. I'll gladly talk about my book any day. I mean, it's hard to shut me up once I start talking about my book. The writing was terrible. Now, this was his first writing attempt. Just like my first writing attempt, it was good, but it wasn't great. There were some issues. One of my readers, one of the people who read both books, told me, they said, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but your second book was better than your first book, even though your first book was good. I'm like, you're not hurting my feelings when you say that, because I wanted my second book to be better than the first. I want my third book to be better than the last two, and so on and so on. I want to continue to improve. The writing in this didn't look good, and I read Isom 2, and the writing did not improve at all. It was as muddy, if not muddier, than the previous book. And the art, I think, if we all know about the art now, how basically it's just 3D assets that were manipulated, and I'm sure there's some hand-drawn stuff in there, but for the most part, it's just 3D assets that are not that. I mean, that's not art. It's not what a comic book is. You pick up any comic book from this, from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. That's all hand-drawn art. I mean, it might not. There might be some stuff that don't look good because a hand can only do so much. But it's art, and it is beautiful when it's done by the right person. This is a copy and paste mess. And I really hope, for his sake, his third book, don't do any 3D assets. Either get your artist to actually do the drawing, or get a new artist. Simple as that. Apparently you have the money. You've made millions of dollars. Now, on a very personal note, I really don't think he's making these comic books because he wants to make comic books. I think he's making these comic books because he wants to prove something. He wants to prove that he can be better than somebody else. The fact that he doesn't talk about his characters, he doesn't talk about the plot, he doesn't talk about anything about the story. All he talks about is people that don't like him and how much money he's making. Those are the only two things he ever really talks about. People don't like me because they're critiquing my book and they're critiquing it poorly. And look how much money we made. We were making so much money. I'm all for that. Make as much money as you want. I'm a capitalist. I want to make money too. I would love to have millions of dollars in sales when it comes to my books, but I don't have the reach. I don't have the 500,000 subscribers that he has. I have just over 1,300. So my reach is limited. Besides, he's a YouTuber that decided to write a comic book. I'm a writer who wrote a book, and then I decided to start a YouTube channel just to promote myself and my books. So I am not doing YouTube to make millions of dollars. I'm using YouTube to promote my book and myself. So that's my critique of the book. It can be better if he really wants it to be better, but I'm not sure he wants it to be better. I think he's happy with good enough. Because if issues 1 and 2 are worth, going, are showing us anything, he's fine with this is good enough. It's not great, good enough. And he's happy with that. He's making $3 million off the first one. What, $2.5 million off the second? I guess he figures good enough is good enough. So, leave your angry comments in the comment section. I want to thank all my subscribers. If I have offended any of my subscribers and they feel like unsubscribing, you will be missed here at the Nerd Way. We appreciate you while you're here. If you feel the need to leave, I understand. I hope you find life outside the Nerd Way just as fun as you did here, if you did at all. All right. That's all I got.